Welcome into Football and Other F Words. My name is Zach Lyons. You can follow me on Twitter at FWordsPod. And I'm, of course, joined by my co-host, Mike Herndon. You can follow him on Twitter at Mike Herndon NFL. Not wearing volunteer orange today, wearing Texas orange, it looks like.
It's
A little
brown.
disappointed. Is that
Are you
brown? I can't
colorblind?
tell.
Yeah.
You need lamps and lights in your place. You need some
I
ambiance.
opened up the window. I've got some
Is that
natural light
brown?
coming in here.
It doesn't look too brown. Let me make sure my brightness on my computer screen is not there, but didn't really look brown. But today, even though the Titans were on bye and they didn't play a football game, we are still have a lot to talk about because the Titans are here and have reached an agreement with the mayor to move forward with a new stadium project. It still has to pass through the city council, so we're going to talk about that. We're going to talk about this whole Josh Gordon love fest and the ridiculous way the fans are, and what essentially Mike Vrabel said at his press conference, which I have never seen someone come back from vacation be so pissed off to be in front of people. And we're going to talk about the trade deadline. We're going to talk about should the Titans be buyers, and maybe should they be sellers? And then, of course, we're going to preview the Colts game as well. We are brought to you by Football and Other F Words, are brought to you by Jasper's in Nashville. Maybe the Titans were on a bye, but they take no days off as they are open 7 days a week, and they are there to provide you with sustenance to get you through whatever your sports team does to you during the game. Whether it's the Nashville Predators losing to the Dallas Stars, or whether it's the Tennessee Titans losing to the New York Giants, they are there for you. They are your neighborhood sports bar, and they are elevating the sports bar game. So head over to Jasper's Nashville, 2-for-1 on Sundays. It is a glorious place to go. And I say glorious because they also love the Nashville Predators. So just a little shout out. Even though we're Football and Other F Words, net hockey and other H words, still got to talk about the Nashville Predators and about all the good stuff that they do, especially because it could be their year. Maybe the Predators are back. We'll see. We'll see.
Not according to whatever those first two games in Dallas or against Dallas will look like. So
yeah, Mike. We are also brought to you by BroadwaySportsMedia.com, and you do stuff for them every Thursday, the Mike Herndon Show, which is for Broadway insiders only. How did last week's Mike Herndon Show go for you? What did you see on, real quick, what did you see on the film about the game that they barely won? And what is the Mike Herndon Show going to do for a bye week?
I mean, so from the film standpoint, I thought it was a lot of Dennis Daly falling down. So that there was a lot of that in there. And then, some Caleb Farley falling down too. So it was a lot of guys falling down, but it is what it is.
Benny Hill.
So the thing to me that most stood out, and it's almost hard to remember back that far ago now, back to that Washington game. It feels like it was forever ago.
Hell, I couldn't even remember who they played. That's why I a little struggled on that intro. I was like, who they even play?
Remembering back to it, it was a game where the offensive line was mostly horrific, and I kind of felt like that was the one spot that coming out of the bye they have to address left tackle somehow, because Dennis Daly, old Double D, just is not getting it done.
I agree. So what do you do during the bye week? What's the plan for this week?
This week we're just gonna watch film of kittens. Maybe this bear. We're gonna break down this bear attacking this mountain climber that you sent earlier. And I continue to believe that you can fight wild animals that you cannot fight.
Every month, a video surfaces that proves that I could beat up a wild animal. It's just an undeniable fact at this point. If a guy can do it while hanging off the side of a cliff, I can do it at any point in my life. Bring it on, you fucking grizzly losers. I'm going to take you on one by one, and we'll make you all extinct at this point. Every bear.
We're gonna go to the tape and break down why you're not right about that. But we will also just we'll probably just talk Titans thoughts coming off the bye. There's not really any film to get into. Maybe we'll do some best of and worst of the first pre-bye part of the season, but mostly just going to be getting into Colts and what the rest of the season looks like.
Well, it's going to look a little bit different, hopefully in a few years, for the Tennessee Titans, as It was announced today that Mayor John Cooper and the Titans organization have reached a deal to move forward with the proposal to bring it in front of the city council for them to vote on in a couple of weeks to get the Titans a new stadium, which they desperately, desperately need. A lot of interesting stuff came out today, a little bit more concrete. Obviously, we know where the location is. It's going to be essentially in the parking lot where a little bit closer to the interstate and everything. It's going to be on that side, closer to the Interstate 24.
Yeah. They're going to
Which
be
is a
building
great
in
location.
lots A through D, basically,
Yeah.
which, if you're familiar with the Titans parking arrangement.
And then you're going to have, they're obviously, which has been always part of the plan, green spaces, shopping centers, affordable housing all around the area. Also, nothing new. They have confirmed it's going to be a dome. The TennesseeTitans.com have confirmed it's going to be a dome. Retractable roof is not happening. Don't listen to anybody telling you it is at this point, because so far TennesseeTitans.com has it in black and white. Nate Rao, who broke this story this morning, I should have credited him at the beginning, at Axiom.com. Nate Rao, he said in there explicitly is going to be a dome. It's a dome, which is fine. Now, hopefully, by the time that the stadium is built and ready, they are going to put in and install, according to TennesseeTitans.com, the best artificial turf available. So it's not going to be this Lucas Oil shit rag turf that they had put out there that's essentially made of concrete. They're going to put out really nice turf, and it's going to be basically they're waiting until the stadium is nearly done to get the turf inside the stadium. So it's not like they're going to get turf in 2022 and hold it in a warehouse. It's going to be the newest kind and state of the art. Good sign at this point. Mike, what are some of your takeaways about the stadium that you are like, yes, I'm in on the stadium. I'm ready for the dome. I'm ready for all this to happen.
So, I kind of go back and forth because from an aesthetic standpoint, from a watching football standpoint, I do prefer outdoor stadiums and grass. I think it's a better.
Is
I think
it the
it
sunlight or
feels
the grass? Because can you
what.
really tell that it looks like grass from your TV?
Oh yeah, you can definitely tell grass versus turf.
Oh,
Oh,
you're
100%.
crazy. You're fucking crazy.
100%. I mean, because you see the stupid little black pellets kicking up everywhere every time someone tries to do a
See, I think those are
toe
cool.
drag or whatever. Or you also see and nobody has grass stains on their uniforms.
Yeah,
Their
that's
uniforms are all clean and stuff. Like it's just little things like that I will miss when the NFL is all dome, which it feels like we're headed towards.
What if they just put wet green paint out there? Will that help your grass stain stuff?
I mean, maybe that'd help a little bit. But I will admit that like the weather sometimes does suck to have to sit through, and it's not even the cold. Like honestly, I can deal with the cold,
right,
in December games, January games, whatever. Like you just put on more layers, and by the time you're in there with 70,000 people, feels fine. What I can't deal with is the heat. Like when it is 95 plus degrees in September, and you're sitting outside with no protection at all from the sun, and it is a noon kickoff, and it is just smoking hot for 3.5 hours, and you're crammed in there with a bunch of sweaty, nasty, drunk people. That's not a pleasant experience. And I will say that part of it, getting the dome and having the ability to not have to sit in that kind of condition, is exciting to me. So that is I think maybe one of the bigger positives for me is that I do think it'll be a cool experience. And frankly, like, not to bag too much on Nissan Stadium, but it's a dump. Like it's a dump as NFL stadiums go. If you go to any other stadium, like I've been to Houston's stadium, I've been to Dallas's stadium. I'm trying to think if there's any others that I've been to that are on the newer end. I think that's it as far as the newer stadiums. But oh my God, it is night and day. Just how the building feels. Like it is just a totally different experience. And I think Titans fans will love the experience of having a new, modern, state-of-the-art stadium that just looks and feels cool. And I hope they do it upright. Like I hope they do it, with a Nashville flair to it, and make it
neon
a
lights
home.
everywhere.
don't make it like a sanitized fucking box, like, the Superdome or any of these older dome stadiums that just, it just looks like a big barrel, like make it a nice, very Nashville, very distinct building that when you see it on TV, you immediately go, oh, that's whatever blank fill in the blank new sponsor is stadium, if it's Nissan or whatever. In Nashville. Like that's what I want. I want it to be unique. I want it to be authentic to Nashville, and I want it to be a cool, fun venue to visit. That's
Okay,
really all my
I got
requirements.
an idea for this. Okay, we got the Batman building, right? We should make this a Superman stadium and make it kind of like into the Superman logo, sort of on top.
Okay.
That way, when you're going overhead, it's like, oh, it's Superman logo, and then you got the Batman building, and
I
then
would,
you could call it. Then you got the world's finest. You can call the neighborhood the world's finest because that's their name. That's a little
I'm
comic book tidbit for you.
I'm calling it now though, because and this is a fact that I don't know how many Nashvilleians know, but if you fly over the Music City Center, the conference event center here, it is shaped like a guitar from the top, right?
Right.
So I think the stadium is actually. I think they're going to try to shape it like a guitar pick. I'm calling it
That's
now.
pretty close to the Superman
It
thing.
is.
So
It is.
we can work with that. We'll work ourselves around it. I'm with you. So I think the dome is the best way to go. It's just so fucking hot. And
It
that's
is.
the thing, and you mentioned it in our house we keep a 68, right? And my argument to that is you can always put on more clothes. I can only take off so many before everybody's uncomfortable in the house. So to me, that's exactly why a dome was always going to work best, because you will really only have, if you're lucky, depending on your schedule, 2 or 3 max good weather games to go to before it's extremely hot or extremely cold. 'Cause sometimes in November it's still extremely hot because if you're on the away side specifically, it's just the heat just beats down on you constantly. The sun does.
I mean,
So
honestly, this weekend I'm going to the Colts game, and it's I think the forecast is in the 70s, like mid 70s, and I'm like, it's
it's
going to be
basically
hot.
85 or 90.
It's going to
Like,
feel like it's 90 degrees when you're sitting in the stadium baking in the sun for 3 hours. So I'm
right.
like, I'm going to be wearing freaking shorts out there, even though it'll be 40 degrees at tailgate time.
Yeah. I look at it this way too. So far, the information coming out says that the stadium, basically, the leftover money is coming from bonds from the city, which is basically a loan from the city, essentially. And I have to say, this looks like a pretty good deal for the city of Nashville. A lot better than what reports made you believe leading up to this decision. So obviously, they put together a really good plan, talking about adding an additional 1% to the hotel motel tax, 100% of the in stadium, and 50% of stadium campus sales tax. That stuff is going to fund the bond. They're basically going to use that money to repay back the bond. And then Titans, NFL, PSLs, and state funding. I mean, looks like everybody's getting kind of what they want. It's going to be really hard based on this specific information given out on TennesseeTitans.com. It's going to be really hard for the city council not to pass this, but everybody's in an election year, politics involved. Everybody's going to want something for nothing and all this stuff. It's not in the clear. I think people were very premature to say that, oh, Titans get new stadium. I saw that from a couple of media sources saying the Titans got their new stadium on the way. It's like, yes and no. Like, I don't see how hard, I don't see why the city council would say no, but it's still politics. Like, there's still another layer they have to go through.
And if you remember when they were trying to get the Nashville SC deal done, I mean, it almost died in the city council chambers because of politics. And, it came down to that, whatever it was, parcel 8A or parcel whatever it was over at the fairgrounds. And there was some huge, back and forth over it. It finally got over the finish line. But I guarantee you there will be someone on the city council, if not several someone's, who are going to make a big stink about the cost and everything else, and whether or not this is something that the city needs to be doing, even with the city apparently just not even having any real money that they're outlaying to this besides basically a loan, a bond that would be funded exclusively through tourism dollars and, revenue generated by the stadium itself. So it does seem like a no lose situation for the city, but I guarantee you, something will happen. There's already a city council member I saw on Twitter that's wanting to see this report of how $350 million to basically keep up Nissan Stadium over the remainder of this current lease turned into whatever it was, 1.7 billion or whatever it was in the later report. And I get that, like, but at the same time, who cares what the estimates were? If you're getting a brand new stadium that's going to bring in all this revenue, and it will generate a ton of revenue for the city, because we're not just talking about Titans games and all that. We're talking about the Super Bowl, which would be a huge revenue driver for the city. We're talking about Final Fours. We're talking about WrestleMania. We're talking about college football playoff games. All of those would be massive, massive, massive events. And you're talking about year-round concerts. So big stadium tours. That thing is going to be busy all the time. And
they're
it
talking
will
about
generate a ton of money for the city.
They're talking about an estimated total economic impact of $33.7 billion in the Nashville economy just over the next 30 years.
Yeah.
So you're getting your money over that. And then you're getting about 4,927 annual full and part-time jobs. So almost 5,000 jobs annually and full-time. Now, this obviously includes the surrounding area, but the construction of the new stadium is also going to generate over 19,000 jobs. And it's going to have a one-time direct spending impact of 1.9 billion, a total economic impact of 3 billion. So you're almost like the impact of all this is almost paying for itself right off the get-go. So look, this is all Titans propaganda, right? All this information is coming from Titans. So there could be more information that comes up, but the information available to us is that this is just a good deal for everybody involved. And now the Titans just, need to start having some exciting games to match this exciting stadium, or you're just going to be watching other teams in your house in the Super Bowl for years to come. One bad news about this, PSC Scrapyard's still going to be there.
Yes. Well, and that's, I don't know how you get rid of it, because, as long as it's owned by Carl Icahn, it's just going to be an issue for the city, because he has dug in so hard, and he knows with this deal that he's going to have more and more leverage over the city to extract a higher and higher price. And I know there's been some talk that he's wanting to develop it himself. He did keep it when he sold the rest of his scrap business. So it'll be very interesting to see what pans out, because the city cannot let that stay there. If they're going to turn this into what they're saying they will, which is like a really beautiful campus around the stadium that's going to be like family friendly and have some bars and restaurants, but not like it sounds to me like the Titans vision is they don't want it to be Broadway extended. They want it to be like more family friendly, more, maybe upscale bars and restaurants and things like that, but places where, families can go before a game and stuff like that. And also, I saw, I think it was in PK's write-up on the stadium information. He mentioned, the Grove at Ole Miss, and the tailgate scene down there is kind of part of the inspiration for how they view, like, where Nissan Stadium currently sits all the way down to the riverfront. That whole area, once the new stadium is built, they will demolish it, and I believe the idea is to turn that all into green space, and they're giving that land back to the city to use as green space for parks and build trees and stuff like that. Which, honestly, if you can set that up as like a really nice, like, cool tailgate spot that Titans fans can use, but then also a place just for people to go when the Titans aren't playing. That's a win-win for the city too, because that's a great piece of land right there with the Nashville skyline and everything. I mean, it has the potential to be really, really cool if it's done correctly and done the right way. And frankly, I mean, they hired Manica Architecture, which is the other kind of part of this too, that sounds like they're not only hired, but they're moving forward with the design. There's already some details in here about, square footage and things like that, which tells me that they've been kind of down the road as far as developing the plans for this thing. And it'll be really interesting to see how it all shakes out. But Manica did Las Vegas's stadium, the Raiders. They did Houston Stadium back when it came out. They did the new Chase Center in San Francisco where the Warriors play. So some really, really cool. They did Wembley Stadium in London. So like these guys have done some really cool, really amazing architecturally beautiful stadiums. So I have high hopes for what this will turn out to be for the Titans. And, I know I do want to talk real quick about the whole turf thing, because that's one thing that everyone's going to be up in arms about over this thing. And I get I like the turf, I like the grass thing just as much as anybody, but I also understand that to have a roll out grass field, which is what you'd have to have in a dome, you have to have two things. One is a lot of money, because it's extremely expensive, not only to install on the front end, because you're basically putting in a whole irrigation system and a whole rail system to run your field out, and all the mechanical pieces that go along with that, as well as maintenance over time, like having to have people be able to maintain that grass field and service the equipment that it's going to have to run on, everything else like that is very, very expensive. So would you rather them spend the money on that, or would you rather them spend the money on, a better stadium experience in some other way? Because it's not like we're dealing with a multi-billionaire or I won't even say no multi-billionaire, but we're not dealing with Elon Musk here, right? Like the Adam family is rich by all standards, but they are not among the top half of the NFL as far as wealth among NFL owners. So it's not like a unlimited pocketbook that we're dealing with here. And also, you have to have a ton of space. That's the other thing. You have to have a lot of space where you can roll the grass out and have a space where it can get sunlight and grow. And the Titans don't have that around that stadium, especially not if they're going to build this really cool campus around it. So I get there people want that, but I don't think it's realistic, not for what the Titans are trying to do here with the budget that they're working with. And I know $2 billion is a lot of budget, but in modern construction, it just doesn't go as far as you might think, especially when you're talking about a dome stadium. So it is unfortunate that it will end up being turf, but hopefully it's really good turf. And maybe there will be more turf advances in the next 2 or 3 years before this thing actually goes in.
I personally like the pellets that kick up when that, because it makes for cool TV, cool visuals.
It does.
But it also, when replays are involved and stuff like that, you can clearly see when someone's dragging their foot a lot easier when they've hit the foot, staying in bounds trying to make a catch. But that's just me. I just gotta like it. It kind of just looks cool. Okay. Speaking of someone that did not look cool, was Mike Vrabel today in his presser on Monday. We're recording this on Monday, so today, but Monday. Opening presser, back from bye. He looked like he had the worst vacation ever, the worst time off. And it makes me wonder, and I brought this up on a football show, which you can hear on Mondays and wherever podcasts are sold. Go on YouTube, and you can actually watch this on YouTube if you want to go to the Broadway Sports Media YouTube page. But at this point, it looked like Mike Vrabel did some self-scouting on this team, and he came back with answers he did not like. And that's just me reading maybe too much into things. But how can you go and self-scout, guys like Josh Gordon, guys like Dennis Daly, and not come back a little pissed? Obviously, Josh Gordon was cut on Monday, and he said his goodbyes, which, yeah, goodbye, see ya, whatever. Dennis Daly, though, still around, and obviously he will stay around, but it sounds like, according to Mike Vrabel's presser, that Dennis Daly's job is in basically dire straits. However, we know this Tennessee Titans team is willing to give a guy a little bit of leeway to prove himself. I think he at least gets one more week to see if the work in the off week, pays off. But let's not hold our breath. Where do you want to start first? because there's a lot to get to and a lot of news that just came out too while we were taping this. Do you want to start with Josh Gordon, Dennis Daly, or Ola Adeniyi?
Well, first, let me say that I think Vrabel's mood was likely more tied to his news making over the weekend with this reply all thing and everything that came out with that. And it sounded like he was pretty pissed that somebody leaked that
I'll
to
get
the
over
medium,
it.
which
You leaked
you
it
know
to
was
70.
Chris Ballard.
Yeah.
You know it was Chris Ballard.
You know, I said it on a football show. It's definitely Chris Ballard. But you sent an email to over 64 different people, right? It's going to get out to Adam Schefter or Ian Rappaport or whoever broke it first. It's going to get out because that's what people do. You're in America. Nobody in America is exempt from being part of office gossip. Get over your self-importance and self-worth. You are in a fraternity. Fraternities are all about telling secrets.
Yeah, but I think that's the reason he was pissed. I don't think he particularly likes being in the news or a newsmaker, and I think that was the reason. But
it was the least, I guess, noteworthy piece of news that came out of the weekend. Like it popped up, right? Some guy hits reply all in the office email. It says something. And then the game started and nobody fucking gave a shit anymore. Like, the only people who still care about this are the people asking Mike Vrabel. And I guarantee nobody's going to talk about this again. Right? I mean,
probably not. Today. Until Vrabel's seen undressing some official on the sidelines this weekend after a call.
He should have a laptop and then just like when he's like mad, just hit reply all as a joke. I just think it's funny that he's so upset over something so fucking frivolous because everybody agrees with him. It's not like he sent out some nudes and, bashed Ryan Reynolds because he's America's sweetheart, even though he's Canadian. And he said, Ryan Reynolds is fucking trash. And here's a picture of my dick. He just sent what everybody's thinking and what everybody's saying. In fact, he should be touted as a hero and should feel like, yeah, I fucking sent that email and I told them how I feel because I'm tired of this shit instead of just complaining and bitching about his email getting leaked.
Yeah.
That's how I feel about it.
All right. Well, let's start with Ola. Let's start with Ola.
Good news. Bud Dupree is trending to be playing on Sunday, and it's much needed because it was announced just a few minutes ago on Monday when we were recording this that Ola Adeniyi's headed to IR, which they could have done last week and picked up one extra game, but they didn't. But that's okay. So he is going to miss the next 4 games, Ola Adeniyi is. So it's more important than ever that Bud Dupree is not only healthy, but he actually stays healthy. And we talked about that last week. But the Ola Adeniyi news made way for Josh Thompson, another safety / a special teams ace, because apparently the Tennessee Titans and Mike Vrabel think they can play 22 people on kickoff. They can't. They can only play 11. I don't understand it. Why are they wasting time with these fucking guys? It doesn't really matter in the big scheme of things, but it's hilarious at this point that they are just getting safety after safety after safety on this roster.
I think this just tells you they hate all the guys that they've had in that spot.
They're all the same guys, aren't they? Like, that's, to me, is like you're just bringing in more of the same.
Well, they are, but I think they're hoping that one of them hits and turns into like,
he's throwing shit up against the wall.
Well, he's the one of them. Maybe one of them turns out to be like the Joe Schobert of safeties. Like, oh, well, this one works. So who knows? Yeah, maybe Josh Thompson will be that. As a Texas alum and fan, I like Josh Thompson. I always did when he was at Texas. I thought he was their best corner last year, which was on a bad defense, so it didn't really matter. But he's a pretty
really
good player.
selling.
Like, well, I mean, he ran a 4.4 at the combine, which gives you a little bit of juice speed wise. So I think Josh Thompson isn't anything special, but I think he could play. And I think they're still looking for somebody to play that like dime safety role too. Like, I mean, Hugo Amadi kind of got thrown into the slot here, and then like Lonnie Johnson, I thought was going to kind of be that, but then Lonnie got hurt, and then he just hasn't played a ton the last few weeks. So I don't know if that's what they're specifically looking for, or maybe they're looking for Thompson to take Lonnie's spot on special teams so Lonnie can play more defense. I don't know what the mix is there, but they're clearly still looking for someone to fit into that secondary, because the secondary's been a problem. It's been a little bit under the radar because of some of the other problems on this team, but secondary hasn't been good overall. Part of that's been Hooker's been out, part of that's been Molden's been out, all that stuff. But
And the pass rush,
which, and it doesn't sound like Molden is probably going to play this week either. So he continues to be on IR. So I don't know. They need help, but I don't know if Thompson's the right person to give it to him or not.
but this Oladini thing, I kind of wish they would have put him on IR last week. I kind of thought that they would, because he does have a neck injury, and obviously you want to protect your players. And it's something that he's been battling since before the season, because I think it happened during the preseason, if I'm not mistaken. I don't remember which game, but something to monitor.
He hasn't played since Buffalo. I mean,
Yeah.
he's missed, I think, 3 games already.
It
So
seems like there was a
technically,
misevaluation of the severity of this injury, I feel like, because
well, I think he definitely was dealing with something, and then he came out of the Buffalo game, and then I think he came back in practice the next week, because he's been at practices before.
Yeah.
And we've thought maybe he's going to play this week. So there must be something that's just not responding. And look, neck injuries can be tricky, so who knows what it is.
So is it Wyatt Ray season again in Nashville? Is that what the
No.
plan is? I mean, what is the plan to fill the spot besides just Bud Dupree and Rashad Weaver? I mean, you got to get another guy in there.
It's Bud Dupree, Rashad Weaver. It's also
Sam
Autry.
okay.
Danico Autry's playing outside a ton. So it's going to be Bud Dupree, Danico Autry, Rashad Weaver mostly. And then I think you'll probably see some Mario Edwards, which we've already been seeing. I think you'll see some Sam O, which we've already been seeing. So I think they're fine. As long as Bud Dupree is healthy and can play a full complement of snaps and stay healthy, I think they're fine at outside linebacker, even without Ola. Like Ola's more important if they don't have Bud, to me, because he just brings a little bit more juice to that group. But with Bud, Ola's not going to play a ton anyway. So, hopefully that means good things for Bud Dupree. That's really my biggest concern there.
Well, you would think so. If they're putting him on IR, then they get their 14th safety in there. That means good things about Bud, even though it's a hip injury, and you don't know what kind of hip injury it is. And you don't know if it could be easily re-aggravated in a position that he plays that requires, him to be flexible, but him to also get tackled, hit on the ground, piled up on. I feel like Bud Dupree, and we both agree that a 70% Bud Dupree is better than 100% of whatever you're going to get out there in free agency. But, you got, and I know it's a big if, he's got to stay healthy. And if he can stay healthy during at least the 4-game stretch that Oladini is about to miss, that's going to be really good for this defense in all facets of the game, from pass rush, from run defense, all the way to coverage and everything else in between.
Absolutely. Yeah, they desperately need him. Desperately.
All right. Look, I can't believe that we're going to have to talk about this. But my God, were people mad that Josh Gordon got cut? He played in 2 games, 21% of snaps, and did absolutely fucking nothing. He didn't get open. He barely was able to run block. He obviously, according to Mike Vrabel's own words, did nothing in practice to impress them, which would warrant him to be called up for another game. They chose Des Fitzpatrick over Josh Gordon in the last game because the writing was on the wall. We told you when he got signed not to expect anything. The upside was wide receiver 5. The upside was not wide receiver 2, 2013 Josh Gordon. I need you guys to understand something. That was 9 fucking years ago. Almost a decade ago since Josh Gordon has been relevant and good. What the fuck world do you all live in? Are you guys in Tennessee Titans land fandom that are you guys just living in the past? It's almost like you guys think that they should go out and sign Darrelle Revis because he was good back in 2009. Give me a fucking break with this. Look, you know me. I hate Cody Hollister. They could do so much better than Cody Hollister, even in that spot, if they just fucking farted out into the wind and let Will Fuller smell it. Keelan Cole, these other fucking guys that actually have good NFL experience. But here's the thing, and I hate to say it, he's the better football player.
He is.
He's not the better athlete, maybe.
No.
I don't know, because obviously we didn't see anything from Josh Gordon that stated that he was still a spectacular elite athlete. But
And have you seen Cody Hollister with his little midriff shirts out there at practice? I mean, the guy's pretty cut up. I don't know.
Here's the thing, Mike, and correct me if I'm wrong, and then I'll let you talk about Josh Gordon. None of these the only reason Cody Hollister's on the active 53 is because Racey McMath got injured. Now, it's not a 1-for-1 replacement, but that's why he's on the team. That's why he made it, not on the practice squad, but on the initial 53, because they put Racey McMath on IR. If not for that, he would be on the practice squad. Your practice squad is filled with losers, guys. None of them are good. Okay? I'm sorry. They come in and fill in on 1 or 2 week basis because they're probably can only play at an NFL level for 1 or 2 weeks.
And by the way, that's true of every NFL team.
Yes, this is every NFL team's practice squad. They all suck. Now, here's the thing. They're all the same level of suck almost in different areas. But what Cody Hollister does better than them, and it's not even at a high level, is that he run blocks. And that's why he's wide receiver 5.
And he plays special teams.
And he plays special teams.
That's
all he is wide receiver 5 at this point. Like, just settle it until Racey McMath comes back and Treylon Burks is healthy and you have the full complement of your initial 5 wide receivers. Cody Hollister's on this fucking team unless they do something crazy and trade for someone that is probably not going to happen. We'll talk about that later.
Yeah, and I mean, Hollister, look, he's not good. He's not a good player. He's slow. He doesn't separate. He doesn't, but whatever. But here's what he does do. Like you said, he run blocks. He's really good at that. He's good on special teams. He knows how to run the playbook. So he's going to be in the right place at the right time. Now, he might take forever getting there, and he might be, not open when he gets there, but he'll be in the right place. They can trust him. Frankly, he has pretty good hands. I mean, we haven't seen him be throwing a ton of balls, thank God. But when he does get thrown the ball, he catches it. So he does all the basic shit. Well.
And he's not technically in there to run routes, right? I mean, the plays that he's majorly is for run blocking purposes. And I know people think that's frivolous and stuff, and it is if you were on almost any other NFL team, except for you're a fan of the Tennessee Titans, and that's important. Well, you just have to deal with this fact at some point.
Here's the thing. People get so mad about wide receiver run blocking, almost to the point where, if a guy is a good run blocker, they view it as a negative. And it's crazy to me because if you look at the long Derrick Henry runs that they've had over the last several years here, almost always it involves a wide receiver blocking somebody. It involves Nick Westbrook-Ikine blocking, a Bills linebacker or Bills safety on that 70-yarder that was on Monday night last year. It involves some wide receiver blocking downfield and doing a good job. So it does matter that wide receivers can block well. It definitely matters. Because
it specifically just matters for this team, right?
It matters more. Yeah, it matters more for this team than most, but it matters for all teams. I mean, if your receivers can't block, you're not going to be able to run the football very well. I guarantee you, because you cannot run anywhere but between the tackles at that point. Because as soon as you start trying to run anything outside the tackles, you are relying on wide receivers to get blocks done. And if your guys can't do it, you can't run out there, and then the defense can, narrow and defend the interior a little bit more. So everything, it does matter. All 11 guys on the field being able to block, well, I'll say 10, outside of the quarterback, blocking freaking matters. There's a reason why blocking and tackling are considered the fundamentals of football. That is part of it. So yeah, absolutely. Blocking matters. It doesn't matter over all else. It doesn't matter over, being if there was a guy that was like Stephon Diggs and he couldn't block a lick, obviously you put him out there. You don't give a shit. At that point, he's good enough to make up for it. But if you're Josh Gordon at 32 years old and you were active in 12 games for the Kansas City Chiefs last year and you had 5 catches for 32 yards. He's just a guy. He's just a guy
and
with
people
a
are like, well,
famous
he only
name
got
at
6
this point.
targets. Well, he only got 6 targets for a fucking reason.
Yes.
Patrick Mahomes will throw to
open.
everybody.
Yes.
But
Patrick
he would
Mahomes
not throw to
out here-
Josh Gordon.
He's out here throwing it to anybody and everybody. He's not throwing it to Josh Gordon because Josh Gordon is just a guy. He's just a guy at this point. Like you might as well just go bring back Justin Hunter. I mean, like that's who he is.
Josh Gordon is throwing to guys like Danny Gray. Okay. Have you ever heard of Danny Gray? I mean, I know we have because we follow the draft, but the general fan has no fucking clue who Danny Gray is. Like he will throw to anybody. And the same with all these other quarterbacks. But even so, this whole thing, to wrap it all with a bow, as I'm trying to figure out why the sun outside my window is messing with my camera lighting out here. It just, I don't get why these people are just continue to cling to old shells of losers. You saw it happen with Golden Tate, and we kept telling people that Golden Tate, elite. Listen, the Titans got more out of Josh Gordon than they ever got out of Golden Tate. That should tell you how bad fucking Golden Tate is. Like that's how bad Golden Tate was. And we told you. And look, people are mad. Well, who the fuck is CJ Board? It doesn't matter who CJ Board is because if he's playing games and at this point in the stage, that means that the Titans didn't have gotten worse with Treylon Burks, have gotten worse with Racey McMath, have decided that they, even though those two things are happening, they aren't going to reach into the free agency pool. You have bigger problems than whether CJ Board is better than Josh Gordon. And guess what? He probably is better than Josh Gordon.
He very well may be. I mean, these guys don't matter. I mean, it is legitimately, it just, you're arguing, you're wasting precious moments of your life arguing about guys that are just never, ever going to matter.
Right. Guys that play like 9 snaps.
Yeah.
I mean, like, it's 9 snaps a game. If CJ Board's even activated at this point, like, give me a break.
CJ Board had more yards than Josh Gordon in 6 games active than Gordon did in 12 games active last year. So, hey, upgrade.
Upgrade for a meaningless position that will never amount to anything. Just like Josh Gordon didn't amount to anything. Just like Golden Tate didn't amount to anything. Just like Des Fitzpatrick hasn't amounted to anything. Guess what? CJ Board's probably not going to amount to anything. Like, just get over the fact that, unfortunately, on this team, your practice squad wide receivers suck. And guess what? If you went over the Buffalo Bills, their practice squad wide receivers suck unless they play Caleb Farley. And guess what? If you go over to the Chiefs practice squad, guess what? Their wide receivers suck too. Like, they all suck on the practice squad. But hey, at least they make, $140K. Like, hey, you can make $140K for running wind sprints and wearing that goofy fucking concussion helmet. Who am I to,
practicing 3 times a week. Good for you.
Good for you. I mean, really. Okay, so we talked about Josh Gordon. Let's talk about Dennis Daly, who basically he still has a job, and he probably still will have a job. But it seems like Mike Vrabel and the team came back and said, okay, he may be a nice guy, but this guy sucks. And we're in deep doo-doo. But it doesn't look like, or sound like, I guess I should say, that Dylan Radins is in that plan because he's a guard and he played guard, according to Mike Vrabel, right?
Is that what you took from his answer? Because that wasn't necessarily what I took from his answer there. Because he said Radins has played guard for us because that's where we've needed him, right? Gotcha. That's what he said. He said, well, Nate was out, so Dylan played guard for us. But then he said something about him being like a utility player or something like that. So I didn't take it as definitely no on Radins. I took it as he played guard last game. That's all I'm really going to say about that.
Bitch.
he just doesn't want to say shit. But
I liked everything about Racy. Potential. Yeah, potentially he'll be back. Oh, Bud Dupree, he'll potentially be back. Like, just fucking tell us Quit
Yeah.
playing these mind games. I don't think anybody over at the Colts organization is game planning for whether Matt Math. Maybe they are game planning for Bud Dupree, but it doesn't fucking matter because the offensive line sucks for the Colts. So I digress. Mike, what are they going to do with this offensive line? I know this is like the same topic, and I feel like we're talking in circles. Do we have anything new to really add to this discussion? Because at this point, Dennis Daly sucks. We both agree. Dylan Radins is maybe better, maybe not. And then the Raven Clark, we don't know what the Raven Clark is. Quote the Raven, possibly nevermore. Who knows?
Yeah, I don't know. I mean, I don't have a ton to add to it besides the fact that I think they should do something, and that if they are going to do something, now is the time to do it.
Yeah.
Because I think it's, look, we've seen Dylan Radins in 2 games now, right? We saw him against the Niners at left tackle, and we saw him against the Commanders at right guard. He wasn't great in either of those games. He wasn't really particularly good in either of those games, but he was not worse than Dennis Daly has been in, basically any of the last 3 games in either of those games. So to me, just put Radins out there, do it, see what you got. If nothing else, you get an answer about what he is or isn't for next year. So I think it's time to put Radins in there. And if you hate Radins that much, just try Clark. Clark's the same guy as Daly to me, but like at least he's a tackle from a measurable standpoint, whereas Daly I think is purely a guard. So try it. I don't know. It can't be worse. It cannot be worse because literally Daly is the worst tackle in the NFL right now. So I try something.
The only way it could be worse is not putting a guy out there. I mean, that's literally the only way it could be worse is not having a left tackle at all.
Starting a literal traffic cone. Yeah.
Yeah. So we're talking about help. The trade deadline's upon us. And you said something interesting today. Now, it is with a caveat. The Titans should not be buyers in the trade market unless it's a long-term fix. And I do agree. Obviously, DJ Moore could be that long-term fix, right? He has a palatable contract that you could take on initially this year because their salary cap is very low, right? Or the salary cap space is very low. I think it's roughly $2 to $3 million right now. So if you brought in DJ Moore, he's only going to cost you $1 million and some change. So you have space for him this year, and then he's 16 mil the next 2 years. Now, the Panthers on Monday traded Robbie Anderson. The Panthers are fielding phone calls and asking an outlandish price for Christian McCaffrey. I don't think DJ Moore is going to get traded. I don't think they have an interest in trading DJ Moore because I don't think they want to do a complete rebuild. I think it's like DJ Moore, the recent draftees like J.C. Horn, and the I can't remember which left tackle they ended up getting. And
Ike Ekwonu.
Yeah, Ike Ekwonu. And then DJ Moore. Like, I think it's like those guys that they're going to build around. So I think DJ Moore is a part of it. And DJ Moore is relatively inexpensive compared to the wide receiver free agent market. So why would you go pay someone else a ton of shit more money for a guy that you already got on the roster? And he's getting a lot of their targets, just not turning anything because they have Baker Mayfield, PJ Walker, Sam Darnold, these fucking losers at quarterback. So DJ Moore is obviously a very, very slim chance of happening based on comments coming out of Carolina. Now, listen, owners and coaches, they're liars and all this shit. I just don't see how you can go the rest of the year with just Shi Smith and Terrace Marshall as your starting wide receivers with Laviska Shenault and expect to keep people happy and have any progress, right? So at this point, I think DJ Moore's off the table. Is there anybody out there that jumps off the page, either at wide receiver, offensive tackle, or even in the cornerback room? Because this Elijah Molden thing seems like it's going to be an Adoree Jackson 2.0 from a couple of years ago. Is there anybody worth being buyers for?
I don't know. I mean, like, nothing that I see out there right now. Like, I guess to me, what I think about is someone like, and I don't think it happened because it's in the division, but Laramie Tunsil. Like, Laramie Tunsil's 28 years old. He's a really good left tackle. If the Texans were to decide that, hey, we're in a long-term rebuild, we know that. We know he's expensive. We don't really think we need to be in. Like, he doesn't sync up with what we're looking at for our future. and they decided to move him, I would be all over that because that fixes left tackle for 2 to 3 years at least. That gives you a reset at left tackle with a player that is played at a really high consistent level for many years now. So something like that I could get on board with. But here's the thing I don't want them to do. I don't want them to flip another day 3 pick, even if it's a 5th or 6th rounder, for some rental like Robbie Anderson. Like, this is the deal that everybody was mad that the Titans didn't do. Oh, you couldn't give up a 6th and a 7th for Robbie Anderson. Are the Titans one Robbie Anderson away from like a meaningfully different season? No, they are not. Like, Robbie Anderson is, if Robbie Anderson was that important, the Panthers would be a hell of a lot better than they are, right? I mean, I just don't understand this idea that, well, this guy's going to come fix all our problems. You're still going to have left tackle issues. You may not be able to block long enough to throw the ball to Robbie Anderson more than 20 yards downfield. You're still going to have secondary issues. You're still going to have depth issues at pass rush. Like, all these issues are still going to exist with Robbie Anderson on the team. Like, maybe he makes a play or two for you that helps you out. Sure, I get it. Like, but it doesn't materially change the ceiling of this team. And I just don't think they're in a position where they need to be flipping draft picks or spending any extra money chasing marginal improvements like for the rest of this year, because this team, I think, will win the division. I think they're the best team in the division. I think they're going to win the division. And then I think they're going to lose in the first round of the playoffs. And Robbie Anderson doesn't change that one bit. And if a guy is not changing that one bit and he's not probably going to be around here next year, it's a waste of time. You're wasting your time. You're wasting resources. I don't care if you think J-Rob is the worst drafter of all time and he's never going to hit on any draft pick again. So what the hell, trade them all. You still would rather have the picks. Like, to me, I don't see the point in rearranging the deck chairs on the Titanic if that's the direction that they're going to go.
Yeah, when you're still going to hit the iceberg, right?
Right, yeah.
That's the thing that people forget about this NFL trade deadline is, first off, hardly anything happens at the NFL trade deadline, right? I mean, very few trades.
There'll be some massive rumors and then nothing will happen.
But the other thing is that most of the players that are available are on the last year of their contract and have fallen out of favor with their team, like Cleveland Farrell from the Raiders, like Isaiah Wynn, who hasn't really fallen out of favor from his team, but he was linked to rumors, but he's on the last year of your deal. So are you trading picks with the idea that you're going to extend one of these guys? You got Nelson Aguilar, Kendrick Bourne have both been tossed out there. Those guys don't move the needle for you. Sidney Jones, who's a cornerback, think of Bryce Hall, Bryce Hall over at the New York Jets. He's available, but, again, what are you trading to give up him when you already got 3 cornerbacks, right? Because you got Elijah Molden, you're trading for a 4th cornerback essentially in the long term of things. It doesn't make sense. So you're right. Maybe Roquan Smith, Robert Quinn could be possibilities, and you're okay with trying to, extend one of those guys. But essentially, there's just no one out there unless you're going to get a guy like Terrace Marshall. We brought him up a little bit earlier. That's not going to do anything for you, right? I mean, there's nothing out there that does anything for you. There's Chase Claypool, possibly.
I mean, I wouldn't terribly mind Terrace Marshall from the fact of, like, he's still under a rookie contract for a couple years. So you can take him and see if you can get anything out of him. And then, if not, you
can trade, I guess, that 7th round conditional pick that you traded to the Raiders for that Tyree Gillespie kid.
Yeah. I mean, like something like that, I wouldn't be totally opposed to, but I think the idea that the Titans are going to make some trade and it's going to fix all their problems and then they're going to go on this huge run is unrealistic. The Titans, if they're going to go on a run, it's going to be because of the guys that are currently in the building, and they're going to figure this thing out and play better football over the back half of the season.
Unless they sign Odell, Mike.
Oh, well, I mean, yeah, I did see them listed as
Jeremy Fowler.
Jeremy Fowler listed them as a wild card team there. I cannot, like as much as Odell has bitched about quarterbacks, look, Tannehill's a pretty good quarterback, and maybe
Hey,
his
played with
reputation
Stafford.
is okay, but I can't see Odell being like, of all the quarterbacks in the league, I'm going to go play with Tannehill. Like that's just not. I
I
don't see
will
that
say
happening.
this about this Odell thing, and this is not something I'm playing, but when Robert Woods tore his ACL, Odell was there for him. And then when Odell tore his ACL in the Super Bowl, Robert Woods, they formed a pretty big bond. And if Robert Woods really chose and wanted to go to the Titans, there's a good chance he could talk Odell Beckham into coming. Just
I mean,
saying, just throwing it out there. It's a long shot. Just throwing it out there.
it's definitely a long shot. I mean, honestly, like if they could convince Odell to come here, I'd be okay with it, as long as the contract was not just for this year. Like if it's a
Right.
1-year deal, I don't think I'm as interested as I would be if it's a 2-year deal where you get some opportunity for him to be part of the group next year that hopefully will be a better version of this team.
Let me ask you something. I'm gonna throw this out there because everybody always talks about the Titans as buyers. Buyers, 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 buyers. Are there players where the Titans should be sellers on? That you think that there is a market that they could sell where they not really hurt the team for making the playoffs because we know they're not going to win the Super Bowl anyway, but they help regain some draft picks that maybe they lost in stupid trades like for Dennis Daly and stuff.
Yeah, I mean, I guess it would be pretty hard for me to see a specific deal because there's just nowhere where you feel like their depth is so good that it's like some other team would come calling for somebody.
Let me say
Yeah,
this: if
I
people
don't.
are kicking around the idea that that Christian McCaffrey is worth a couple of draft picks, like we know the Panthers want multiple first round draft picks, and we know they're probably not going to get it. If someone comes knocking on your door and offers one first for Derrick Henry, what do you do?
I don't know. I guess it depends on which team and how high that first might be. Because if it's a top 10 pick, I'd probably say, all right, Derek, thanks. It's a good run.
Oh,
Um,
this franchise, this fan base would just fucking explode all over the.
oh, it would be
But you
unbelievable.
should do it.
You should do it if you can get that deal though.
Who's one of the worst teams in the league right now? Shit. Well, I guess you wouldn't use the Raiders because they have Josh Jacobs, but if you're what's a bad NFC team?
Uh,
Can't believe the
Cardinals.
Panthers. Well, that doesn't really matter. The Cardinals, yeah. Um, let me say this: would you rather? Nah, if they sent Cam Akers and a first for Derrick Henry, would you take it? The Rams.
Eh, maybe.
Okay, Commanders. If they said, "Hey, Brian Robinson, we don't know what he's going to do. We got to make some headway in this division before it's curtain call."
Oh, yeah.
Washington Commanders.
I'm sending them to the Commanders for sure because they're
Gotcha.
going to be picking in the top 10.
Yeah. What about I guess the Saints would make sense. The Bears don't make sense. What about no? The Lions don't make sense. A lot of teams have good young running backs. When you really get
Yeah.
down to it.
Yeah. I can't imagine this trade actually happening. I
No.
mean, I think at the end of the day, the spots like, and this one may make some people angry, but if someone wanted to rent Austin Hooper for the rest of the year, I'd be willing to send Austin Hooper away for a pick. I mean, he's not doing anything for you right now, anyways. And I think the more snaps you can give Chig, the better. So, if that means you go with Chig and Swaim and Raider for the rest of the way, is that a huge step down from what you've got right now? Because Hooper hasn't been good. So that would be the one maybe that I could see like, hey, if you could flip him for something, and I wouldn't mind it. I don't think they should trade Caleb Farley. I think I mentioned this somewhere else, but it'd be selling at an all-time low price wise. It just doesn't. It would be bad business to sell Caleb Farley right now and not. I mean, you're not saving any real money, or you don't have a better corner that's chomping at the bit to get a roster spot. You'd be bringing in a guy like another Terrence Mitchell, whatever Terrence Mitchell is currently sitting on the streets waiting for a phone call. You'd be bringing in another of him. So
What would happen to this fan base and maybe to your sanity and maybe to your own fandom. If the Tennessee Titans traded away Jeffrey Simmons at the trade deadline for a
Oh
buku of
God.
picks.
Oh, for how much?
A buku. How much is a buku for you?
It would have to be 2 firsts plus something else probably.
For you to feel okay with it.
Yeah, I mean, and I still probably wouldn't feel okay with it just because Simmons is just such an unbelievable player, and you've got him here, and trying to find the next Jeffrey Simmons is
you got to think though. Teams are calling, right? Teams are calling about Jeffrey Simmons because you got to think he's got the 5th-year option. They haven't given him the extension yet, so you could be the team that negotiates the extension. You got to think teams are calling. I'm not saying that he's listening or fielding the calls or making calls himself. I'm just saying you got to think there are some teams out there calling about Jeffrey Simmons' availability.
If the Titans, let's say the Titans lose the next 2 games somehow, and wait, yeah, Houston is before the trade deadline. Yeah. So let's say they lose the next 2 games and they're 3-4, and the Colts are somehow streaking away with the division. And someone called about Danico Autry. Would you trade Autry?
Yeah, I think they seriously consider it. I mean those are the kind of players, to get back to our original point. Those are the kinds of players, the guys that are going in their last deal or have their last year on their contract. Those are the guys that people want to trade for, and they want to trade for good players. They don't want to trade for your shitty players. No. Speaking of shitty players, the Jaguars faced the Colts over the weekend. Trevor Lawrence is back to being the world's shittiest quarterback and the most overhyped, overrated. Does not matter who Doug Peterson is. He is still the Trevor Lawrence from the Urban Meyer era. He is still bad Trevor Lawrence, and it makes me so happy because I was a little worried there for a second that he was going to start being good. Not because I didn't think they couldn't beat the Jaguars. I still thought they could beat the Jaguars even with the good Trevor Lawrence. It's just I just don't like Trevor Lawrence for some reason. I guess it's still Alabama bias creeping in. But I never thought the year leading into the draft that Trevor Lawrence was as good as what people hyped him up to be. And I'm on record with saying that.
Yeah, and I agree with you on that. I think, and look, I don't know how this happened because I only was able to watch this game on Red Zone because, for whatever reason, the networks never put on other AFC South games in our channel selections here locally, despite the fact
wouldn't either. They all suck.
Well, I mean, that's fair. But it kind of drives me crazy because I did want to watch that game all the way through, and I was only able to catch on Red Zone. But I don't know, how did he complete 90% of his passes and only end up with 165 yards? Like, how did that happen? I don't even know. Yeah, it was a weird game. The Colts did seem to kind of find themselves offensively a little bit in that one, although Jag's gonna jag, man. It is so funny. The team is 0-3 since those Jaguars fans got all uppity and came at me on Twitter and demanded that I old takes expose myself over saying Trevor Lawrence, we shouldn't be putting him in an elite tier of quarterback based off of his first 18 starts as an NFL player. But mighty quiet that they've gotten since then as they've fallen back to 2-4. And
since they started talking shit, they went 1-3 after, starting off, with the 2-game win streak. Like fucking
they're 0-3 since they won those back-to-back games. Yeah. When they beat the Chargers with nobody left on the Chargers, and they were like, oh yeah, look at us. We're the Jaguars. We're back. Look, Trevor Lawrence is our MVP.
The Colts are still having to sling it. Obviously, Jonathan Taylor, Naheem Hines were out. So obviously they're going to have to rely on Matt Ryan to really they're relying on Michael Pittman to make some spectacular catches, which he has done a good job of making some catches and adjusting to some poorly thrown balls.
Matt Ryan threw 58 passes in that game.
It was fucking ridiculous that he even had to throw 58 passes. But Tennessee Titans come to town. They've already played them once, so they know that generating pressure, and specifically Mike Vrabel said on Monday's presser that any quarterback looks good and does well when they're not being pressured. And he was specifically talking about Matt Ryan in this Jaguars game. And any quarterback that looks a little bit less good when they're getting pressure forced on them. So at this point, they're going to probably go in with the same game plan of just pressuring the shit out of Matt Ryan and force him into mistakes. Where do you fall on your confidence level heading into this game? It's a home game. They're coming off a bye. Why the Colts have yet to come off a bye or have their bye. So they're looking right now to rebound and want to right the ship. The Colts desperately need a win. Where are you at on the confidence level for this game?
I mean, relatively high. Like, I think the Titans are. I mean, the Titans are an imperfect team. They have issues, but they're better than the Colts to me. To me, the Colts have all the same issues that the Titans have, except worse because their quarterback is worse. And they honestly, their offensive line is still probably worse. Like, I know the offensive line played better in this game than they have the last few, but I don't think it's fixed. And I think the Titans will expose that in Nashville this week. And I do feel like coming off a bye, as banged up as this team was, getting some guys back, like hopefully Dupree, hopefully Amani Hooker, Zach Cunningham, maybe some of these guys. Hopefully the cavalry is coming a little bit this week for some of these spots where they've been missing players in the last few weeks. But I think it's a better football team. I think it's playing at home, coming off the bye. It's an opportunity that you have to take advantage of. Like, if they lose this game, I honestly feel like the winner of this game wins the division. I really do. Because I just don't see the Colts coming back from starting 1-3-1, I think it would be in the division over the first 7 weeks. So I don't see them coming back from that. They're going to drop games as the year goes on. It's a big chance for the Titans to go ahead and put themselves in a good spot.
I mean, you almost clinched the division with this win, right? I mean, you got 1-3, then you would have 1-4-1 Colts. No, 1-3-1 Colts, right? In the division. They only have one more game against the Texans, which, by the way, weird scheduling that they already have now by week 7, have played 5 division games out of the 7 games they have played. That's insane. That has to be some weird record or whatever.
It is. And they won't play another division game until week 18. So they're going to go like 10 weeks without playing a division game, which is
it's going to be really hard to avoid all this. I was talking about this today. Obviously, this is a must-have win, but I think it's a must-needed win for multiple levels. But I talked about this with Braden on a football show on Monday. And when you look at the Titans' schedule and you look how bad offensive play is around the league right now, I mean, good quarterbacks are playing terribly everywhere. Offensive line play is horrible everywhere. So when I look around and I think, okay, I start looking at the schedule and you're like, okay, well, let's say they lose to the Cowboys, they lose to the Eagles. So they go 0-4 in the NFC East, right? And they're probably going to lose to the Chiefs. So there's 3 losses, but the rest of them seem like wins. You're staring at 12-5 yet again for this Tennessee Titans, which is a chance for this team. And I can't believe that I'm saying this after basically saying that I don't think it means anything for their Super Bowl aspirations. I just think it's wild that this team could still end up being 12-5 as long as they handle business against their own division.
Yeah, I mean, I think they've got a real chance. They've got to win these next 2, right? Like this is kind of you've got to beat Indy, you've got to beat Houston, and then you kind of see what happens. But yeah, I don't think the middle part of the schedule probably isn't as daunting as what it looked like preseason, because the Broncos are not nearly what anyone thought they'd be. The Bengals aren't what people thought they'd be. The Packers aren't what people thought they'd be. So, I mean, it's just not – the Chargers aren't what people thought they'd be. So there are some winnable games down the stretch.
The Chargers, for the record, are never what people think they are.
No, they really aren't. They are the Colts of the AFC West. Let's be honest. They get overhyped every single year. Everybody is buying into them. Oh, look, they've got all these fancy weapons. They've got Justin Herbert. It's going to be amazing. They're going to be unstoppable. And then, just fart noise right out of the gates as they get 1 million people injured. But it's an opportunity. Like I think this team's going to win the division. I think they're the best team in the division. And look, it still wouldn't surprise me. And I know we've been kind of doom and gloom about like this team probably being capped as a first round playoff exit, which I still think is probably the case. You know, I'm not going to say 100%, but I think it's likely that's the ceiling for this team. But this team certainly could get better down the stretch. I mean, I would expect them to. They almost always do. And teams evolve as the season goes on. I mean, there was one point last year, and you'll remember this, where the Patriots, everyone was going, holy crap, the Patriots are unstoppable. I mean, they were just crushing people, and they ran off like a bunch of wins in a row. They had that game where it was Colts Patriots, and everyone was like, is this an AFC championship preview? And then the Colts end up missing the playoffs, and the Patriots get absolutely dusted by the Bills in their one playoff game. So teams change over the course of the year. And like, I know the Eagles are super hot right now and all that. I'm not sure the Eagles will be the hot team in December either. So you got to kind of let these things play out as the season goes. And I know everyone wants to make snap judgments every single week about, you know, well, this team's great, this team sucks, whatever. But it really does. It's a slow burn over the course of the season, and good teams get better and bad teams get worse as it goes. Because I think, and that's where I think my confidence keeps coming back to for the Titans is I think Mike Vrabel is a really good football coach, and I think really good football coaches generally figure it out. And so I just expect this team to figure it out and win the division, and they'll probably, win. I think they'll win 11 games, but that's still a good season.
That's still good. This weekend, obviously, you want to see Amani Hooker back, but Dupree back. But if you only had to choose one, the most important piece is to bring back who?
I'm gonna say Bud. You just got to be able to. You've got to be able to pressure Matt Ryan. That's what it comes down to. I mean, Vrabel talked about on the press conference. So, Bud gives you more weapons to do that, especially since the Colts tackles are terrible.
Is the best way to attack this Colts defense still on the ground, riding the back of Derrick Henry and getting the ball with him in as many creative ways as possible?
I think so. Yeah, I think the Colts tend to back down when the Titans bully them up front, which they've been able to do it just time and time again for whatever reason. It just works with them. So I think you keep going to the well.
Well, speaking of wells, that will do it for us here at Football and Other F Words. You can follow me on Twitter at FWordsPod. You can follow Mike on Twitter at Mike Herndon NFL. You can find both of our works at BroadwaySportsMedia.com and PaulKarski.com. I'm not going to ask you what you're writing about this week unless you know what you're writing about this week.
I do not.
He does not know what he's writing about this week. So, but head over to PaulKarski.com and we'll all find out on Wednesday what Mike has decided to write about. That's right. And it will be great, like it always is. PaulKarski.com, BroadwaySportsMedia.com. Then go to 440 Sports and subscribe to their YouTube channel and get all the hockey news, all the soccer news. And on Friday, Lamestream Media, which is a 440 Sports podcast with Steve Cavendish and Braden Gall, they are going to have on Nate Rao to talk about the stadium stuff. So that is going to be can't miss Friday. Lamestream Media. Turn on your notifications, subscribe to that podcast. You're definitely going to want to listen to that. And, of course, if you want to listen to an Alabama fan not whine and complain about the loss on Saturday, go to the 440 Sports podcast page, YouTube page, and look at Monday's episode, and you will hear some actual objective, good analysis from me. Not backing down, saying that UT earned that win. And you're not going to hear any other Alabama fans say that because they are fucking just shitting themselves right now and embarrassing themselves, trying to come up with ways. I saw someone has gone through every play and wrote down every missed call, every penalty and all this. They're like a fucking lunatic.
Listen, so there were some bad calls in that game, zero doubt about it. But this is the most undisciplined Nick Saban team I've ever seen, and it was true against Texas too. I mean, they played the same way against Texas. They just made their kicks instead of missing them. So
none of the penalties cost the team the win. UT won that game. They got to play the style of football that they wanted to play. Alabama led them and couldn't stop it. They earned that win. So you're going to get a lot more analysis like that from me and Braden if you go over to a football show. Other than that, My name is Zach Lyons. He's Mike Herndon. This has been Football and Other F Words, and you have just been effed.
A Broadway sports media production.